Good. Welcome to today's Informative Friday session, Advanced Interview Scheduling. Please be aware that this session is being recorded. Quick reminder, as we get started, please use the chat feature to ask any questions throughout the presentation, and we will be sure to address them. A copy of the presentation and a link to the recording will be sent to all registrants. If you're not a registrant and would like a copy, please email me and I will include you on the distribution. My email is in the chat. Next slide, please. And I'd like to welcome our presenters. Charisse.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Charisse Villamar. I am going, and along with Mark, I will be presenting today's advanced interview scheduling. Before that, I would like to share a little bit about myself. So I've been in the HRIS space for the past 15 years, worked mostly in public sector and healthcare, and I've done implementations not just in North America, but also in IMEA, which is the acronym for India, Middle East, and Asia. Outside work, I love dogs. I grew up with dogs, and hopefully this year I'll be able to adopt one. And our next presenter is Mark.
Mark Williams, been in this application space for about 15 plus years, 20 plus years outside of that. Public sector, healthcare, private sector experience. Actually more private sector than anything else at this point, but worked across a variety of industries. I'm a French Bulldog hoarder. We just got our email, so we'll be adopting another one from Awesome Bulldog Rescue if you guys are looking for a Bulldog or a French Bulldog in the next couple of days. Slight disclaimer before we get started. This is just about upgrading your current Infor version 11 cloud suite. It's for general information purposes only, and just for making business, legal, or system-related decisions. We make no representations or warranties of any kind, express or employed about the accuracy, reliability, suitability, availability with respect to the information presented for any purpose. What that really means is that this is a relatively new feature. The documentation is catching up, and we've kind of adjusted some of the presentations versus what's out there already. And with each month, it'll get new tweaks, so make sure you pay attention to the release notes. Therefore, any reliance on this is, of course, strictly at your own risk. And it's highly recommended that you contact us to make sure your solutions are tailored to your specific needs. Does somebody have a question, or are they off mute? There we go. All right, so we'll start with kind of an overview of what it is. I'll spend a fair amount of time going over the enabling of it, first in the PowerPoint, then I'll actually take down the slides and hop into our dem box and walk you through that process. It's relatively straightforward, and talk about just some of the things you'll need to do if it's something you want to implement, and some of the hoops and hurdles outside the system that you're going to have to work through to do it organization wide. I'll then switch over and hand off to Charisse, and she'll take you through more of the actual using of it, and we'll wrap up with any questions. Any questions before we get going? No, Siri, I don't have any questions for you either, Siri. Sorry, that's my Apple Watch going off. So what we're going to talk about today is advanced interview scheduling. If any of you guys have used any of the interview scheduling in the past, it got the job done, but it was a little bit difficult because it was just single appointments that would send out an invitation to Outlook that you could use. This allows you to work across a variety of platforms, and it actually allows the candidates to choose a time slot based on the availability that you've given them. So in many ways, it's a better methodology to follow because you don't have to know ahead of time. And I hope we see more and more folks using the interview scheduling, which is kind of one of the more underutilized parts of TA right now. TA's got a lot of radical innovations and a lot of resources towards it. So if you get the chance, it's a good idea to go ahead and build it out. Some things to know for right now. The official word is it's only available for multi-tenant, and you must use a configurable hiring workflow for it to work for you. With most of us all moving to multi-tenant, if you are single tenant, I would encourage you to at least explore it and see if you can make it work, but that'd be another project also in and of itself. So I'm going to show you how to kind of toggle it on. We're going to go through some of the period and duration defaults that you can set up in the system and how to actually share your calendar. So I'll kind of walk through some of the pieces of that, and then I'll go into our dem box and actually show it to you. So you go into the HR organization as part of your first step in this process, and what you'll do is basically click on the configure button. Once you've enabled it, you'll be able to go ahead and connect to Chronify, which is the external provider that provides a link between the different systems that you can use for this. It does the major ones, Outlook, Google. Some of the more major ones it doesn't do, just as an FYI, is like Yahoo, Hotmail, some of the older email providers that aren't as prominent as they are today. There's an application key and application secrets used to enable communication between your organization and Chronify. These are already delivered within the system and will be populated when you go ahead and enable it. You can override them, but you shouldn't need to. There shouldn't be any exception basis needed to do that, but it does give the ability if you need to. So as part of that, the application must be verified with Chronify, and basically your instance is going to make a web service call that whitelists the URL. They'll be allowed to redirect back to Infor when a calendar is shared and moves an application to production mode. So the less technical version of that is basically it allows your multi-tenant instance to communicate with Outlook and also Google and other providers out there. Verifications automatically perform when you hit that configure button and are auto-generated in the system. If it doesn't work, you'll get a yellow warning box that'll display the sharing of that calendar reads, warning, this application has not been verified and it won't work. So open up a ticket and work through Infor on that one. If they're bypassed for any reason, the verify scheduling application action must be taken on the interview scheduling configuration business class. So should be there when you open it. When we open up the system, I will show that to you. So when you go ahead and you enable it, the first step of this is you just need to simply put in a email address and hit submit. That enables it along with the date that you've already done on your effective date for HR organization. And you can see a button where you can override those auto generation of the credentials. You don't need to use the callback URL at this time. And again, I'll show that to you in the system. You can also do this, authorize it through Office 365 within your organization. If you guys are wanting to use this within your organization, besides what you're just setting up here, you will have to work through your IT department because there will be security protocols, hacking, everything else before they're going to just let you go ahead and integrate with their email servers. So just kind of anticipate that as kind of an outside of the project step that you're going to want to lay out there when you first begin.
Mark, I'm going to stop you just for a question. There was a question about that screen. Can you enter any email address, or is there an organizational email address that should be used?
Anyone you can use.
Thank you.
I don't have access to the chat while I'm presenting, so thank you, Candace.
I will cover you. I got you.
Thank you, my
And
friend.
just really quick, Mark, just a little sidebar on that. What would be the recommendation? Should it be an organizational or should it be someone individual?
Typically, whoever's your recruitment administrator within the organization, that's what I would recommend.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Now, each organization can be a little bit different, and it depends on your span of control and governance. So if your CIO, for example, wants to be in there, go ahead and use theirs. Just let them know they're going to get any of the notifications in their email. So, but that's a very good question. Thank you, Kelly.
See, I was paying attention, sir.
You always are. From there, and a little bit different than some of the documentation out, as I'll show you too in the system also, you actually do the scheduling defaults under interview scheduling in the setup. Some of the older documentation will say that'll pop up on the configure button. That's no longer the case. It has been moved. So again, just kind of catch up on your release notes and you'll see that. In there, you'll put the period default. So interview period is 5 days and 30 minutes. That's how we've set it up. You can set it at the organizational level. You can also do this by interview type, which you could be a WebEx, could be face-to-face. For those of you that have TA, it's basically what drives it is then what you put into your interview type after you've selected it. And it also has a candidate time slot message that you can put in there. And what'll happen is if you send it to more than one candidate and it's already been selected by somebody else, that's this message that will display on the screen. So there's an additional part of this that we'll go through. You'll need to set your availability in there. And what that means is that after you've shared your calendar, you'll set it in the system to say, these are my work hours, basically. What that means is that you are not available from before 8 a.m. in the morning until after 5 p.m., usually local time. Otherwise, it will shoot out that you're available 24 hours a day, which I don't think you guys want to do. Now, it does require that in the organization, everybody has to share their own calendar individually. So that'll be a step that you'll have to walk through with your organization. It's relatively simple. You'll see the share interview come up once you've gone ahead and you've enabled this. And I'll walk you through and demo that for you. And you'll see the different types that you can go ahead and use. It will be under your to-do menu in your instance. We're doing this in our dem box when I bring up the system. So there's some configuration, there's some uniqueness to it. So please bear with us with that. But you can see those are the major providers that it works with. So if you got Outlook or Exchange, Office 365, Google or iCloud, that's what's currently delivered. Some of the other ones, like I said, it won't work with is if you're using Hotmail, which I don't know anybody uses anymore, or Yahoo, which was very popular. It's not going to work with that. And basically, you'll see it, you sign into your Google account, you sign into and walk through the permissions, and it goes ahead and it shares your calendar. You'll get prompted to put in whatever your email is that you're using. And that's whatever calendar is tied to that, just like your Outlook or your personal mail, that's what's get tied to the system. We'll walk through this process in there as far as sharing your calendar and then also setting your availability. And what this does is allows to chronify to talk between your instance, Chronify, and your email provider. And we're going to use Google for purposes of this demonstration. You can also unshare your calendar at any time also. And basically what it does is once you've done that, you're just basically saying you can't look at my calendar anymore. There's not too much to it. And what it does is it blinks out that you're completely busy all the time. So before we move into processing, I'm going to exit this slide. And Kelly, if I screwed up, please tell me. There we go. We should be out of there. And I'm going to stop sharing for a second. I'm going to share again. And I'm going to go ahead and go into the system. So the first step in this is you're going to want to come in as administrator. You'll scroll down to talent acquisition. You go into primary setup, organization configuration. So as you can see, this is our DEM box. We've got quite a few of them. You click on global healthcare in our instance, or whatever yours is for your company. Any questions along the way? Feel free to stop me as I get going if you need.
Sounds good. You're all clear on questions.
And you'll just basically click this, save it, and this will come up. And this is what you'll see if you uncheck this box. And it's automatically generated for you when you've done this, when you hit the submit button. If you would need an exception, work that through Infor, and then you click submit, and you're off and you're running. To then share your calendar. Yep, I'm going to discard changes because we aren't changing anything. You would then switch your role to employee. Scroll down till you get to your to-do menu. And where is it? There it is. And you'll click Share My Calendar. You can choose Google. You'll have an agreement. And I'm going to bring my notes up over on my other side, so I put in the right one. I'll say link to a Google account. You've got my one. If you already signed into Gmail in your browser, it'll populate it here. And basically, it's going to give you a little disclaimer, privacy policy, terms of service. Terms you guys would normally see if you're doing even an app on your phone or even sending mail out. And so I'll click continue. It's going to tell you what it allows it to do. So it's going to edit, share, permanently delete all the calendars you could access using Google Calendar. Do you trust them? You say yes, and you are hooked up. You get a pop-up, and then what you can do, and this is what I was talking about earlier, is you're going to want to go ahead and set your availability rules. And literally what that means is just dragging and dropping through each of these to say what your workday is. Formative Friday over because I just dragged across that. Scroll down and get a little farther. And you can set your time zone in here, and then you just click Save New Rules. With that, you're now set up to do calendar invites. The only part that I didn't go over yet, and I will show you real quick, and I'll go back to being an administrator in our system. It's under talent acquisition. Interview scheduling. And basically saying is it the combined candidate interview team invite. That's the part that is your use sharing of the calendars. So we're saying our interview period is 5 days during the week. Interview duration is 30 minutes. That's the default that'll be sent out unless you override it. And you can go ahead and customize this candidate time slot messaging. It's the same as you guys have all done email templates in the past. You can bold it, you can brand it. If you want to get really fancy, you can do HTML with it. It's really up to you. But if something what this will show is if a time slot's been selected and it's already scheduled in, so if you got multiple candidates out, this is the message that they will see. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Ms. Charisse, unless anybody's got any questions to begin with. And the only other part that you can do before I do that is you can also do it by your interview types, have those defaults set up. We just happen to have them all set up in the system for 5 days and 30 minutes. That can also drive your defaults on your invites. So I'm going to stop sharing. And I'm going to hand it off to Ms. Charisse unless anybody has any questions.
There are no questions in the chat.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. So my part of the presentation will be the demo. Now that all of
Therese,
the...
you're not sharing yet, love.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Here you go. Okay, so as I was saying, my part of the presentation is purely the demo part. So to cover what Mark just did, he configured Chronify in the talent acquisition system. And then after that, he shared, he also created the default rules for each of the interview types. And then the last part would be sharing calendars. So anyone who has not shared their calendar will not be able to, the system will not be able to see their availability. So that's just, that's the caveat in showing you the calendar that I will schedule in a bit. So my role for now is going to be the recruiter. So I'm the recruiter and I'm going to go ahead and schedule an interview for one of the candidates. So I go to requisitions and then I look up the list of requisitions assigned to me. I choose one of them, so it's 48. And then I will check the interview step called HR interview. So let's say this is the interview step where I start scheduling interviews for candidates. I have 4 candidates here. And now let's see who I want to schedule for a interview. Let's go with Mark. So Mark Williams is my candidate. He's ready to be scheduled for interview. I just go to the action buttons and schedule interview action. So this is the form that I will be using to create the details of the interview schedule. I have 2 types of interviews that I can send to the candidate. One is create calendar invite, and the other is send time slots for candidates. So what is the difference between the two? The first option, create calendar invite, is that the recruiter or the person who's setting up the interview will set a specific time for the candidate. And what the candidate can do is either to just accept or reject the suggested time. On the other hand, the other type of interview sends the different time slots that are available based on the availability of the interviewees. So this gives the candidate the option to choose based on the availability. The other one really is a fixed date, and all they can do is accept or reject. So that's the difference between the interview types. So let's say this would be an initial interview. And then you can just put whatever additional description that you want. This is not an email template. So this is the text that will be displayed in the calendar of the recipients of both the attendees and the candidate. So if I want to send a different message to the internal attendees, I can do that as well by clicking on this box. Maybe, let's say screening. I want to give that title. So different message. And if I scroll down here, you'll see that the default rules that Mark set up under interview setups will be displayed here. So it was 30 minutes and it's looking at a 5-day duration based on the default rules. And here between, so it's start time and end time, you're just telling the system, okay, can you look at the availability between, let's say, 1 p.m. until 5 p.m. So look at the calendars between 1 to 5 from this date to this date. Now, you're also instructing the system, can you look at the availability of all the people who are going to be part of the internal attendees? So if you have five people in your panel and you say, I would like to, can you give me the availability of all 5 people? Or if you want, you can also just say, okay, just then give me at least one available person within this interview duration. Because sometimes, maybe that you can't find the same availability for all of your panel interviewees, but you still want to continue getting at least an interview for that period, then you can choose at least one attendee available. Okay, and then additional details. I am the interview host. This is my employee ID. This is my employee or agent that is linked to me. So automatically it will display here. Another option is if I was setting up this interview on behalf of another recruiter or on behalf of a hiring manager, then I can change the interview host from me, which is the default, whoever is setting up the interview, to the other person on behalf of the other person. And then, so these are all optional, but you can add this information. So maybe this is just a WebEx interview. Interview status, it's the list that you set up in your TA configuration. So if I had a status called scheduled, I can choose scheduled. And then if this was an on-site interview, I can add the location. So these are the location of, it's pulling from location of jobs, location details, additional information. Okay, so if now that I'm ready, I will click next. So interview team. For those who have experience creating a requisition, you know that there is a section there where you can add panel interviewees. So if your requisition does have interviewees in there, it will default here in your interview team. If not, like in this requisition, there is no panel interview created, so I can just add. So I'm going to add myself because my calendar has been shared already. Okay. Then click next. I'm not adding any more. Click next. Okay, so it's looking at my availability. So I'm just gonna, if you remember, Mark showed you how to block unavailable times in your employee space. It's an employee space. That's what I did that already. I made some initial blocking. So based on that, these are my available times. Actually, we can go further out for the following week. I also blocked some time. So let's say I am available 1 p.m. Finish. Okay, for that type of invite, there is no email notification sent out. What happens is, let me go to my calendar that is linked. It's my Google Calendar. So if I looked at my Google Calendar, okay, I see it here now. I will see initial interview screening because I was the recipient. I am the internal attendee. So this is what I see. If I go to messaging, the message, so there's nothing there. So I don't get an email notification. I just get the update in my calendar. Any questions?
The email notification goes to the actual candidate with the time, just so we're clear.
Oh, Mark, did you get an email notification?
I did. I'll put it in the chat.
Okay.
I really need to tell Siri to quit bothering me during my meetings.
Okay. So that is for the first type of interview. Let's do the other one. Let's use Mark's candidate again. Schedule an interview. And then the one with the time slots. Time slot interview. That. So same. I'm going to use the same duration, same parameters. Set time. Unfortunately, you can't type it in. You really have to go and manually put the hours in the system. All attendees available. I still want to do that. Maybe we'll do a telephone. And I'm going to add myself again. Okay, so that's a different, now you have a different look. It's looking at all the different options that are available. So this is the message that the candidate will get. Let's just say, so I'm not choosing anything because these are options that are being sent out to the candidate. So I'll click finish. Okay, the next part is the candidate will get an email that will notify it of the different time slots option that they can choose from. So me, the interviewee or the panelist will not get an email as yet. So I'll get an email as soon as a candidate chooses a time. So let's look at another thing. So if I was the recruiter, I wanted to be sure that that email has been sent out to Mark. I'm just going to go to his profile here and go to the hiring process, go to correspondence. I want to make sure it was sent out. Looks like it wasn't. Oh, here it is. Sorry. Yeah. So I see it here. Time slot interview sent out to the candidate. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, this is what the candidate should see. Oops. Sorry. Okay. Let's go back.
Sharice, there was a question in the chat. If
Mhm.
you use a virtual meeting, is there a way to connect or add the virtual link to the meeting?
Of a virtual link, like a Teams.
WebEx, Teams, something like that.
Yeah. So from what I heard from Infor, this is still not, it's not delivered. They are working on, but I don't know when it's gonna come out, having a link to WebEx and Teams. It's not delivered yet. So what you can do right now is really to copy paste the link in the message.
Awesome. Thank you, Sharice.
Okay. So now I will transfer to Mark so he can show you what the candidate will see once this notifications is sent out.
So I will get that link in an email like what you see above. And I'll click on it and I will put in my credentials. Click sign in. Uh-oh. It looks like somebody already selected it. So give me just a second. Here. There we go. So we go ahead and we can select a day. So I'm going to go do it next Tuesday. And then I'm going to choose one of the available time slots that are open in it. Confirm it. All right, we've gone ahead and we successfully scheduled an interview, and you'll see an invite go back to the host themselves and into your in basket.
I am waiting for that email. So I should receive an email as the attendee.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little slow, but let me share my screen. Okay, so that one that Mark accepted just now, I'm waiting for an email notification, but we tested this previously. Mark, the same candidate, so Mark accepted a different time, so 2:30 to 3 p.m. I received the email notification. This is what it's going to look like. Mark has accepted the event, and then if I look at the calendar, this time should be blocked in my calendar. Friday 22:30. Let's look at my calendar. Yeah, this one. 2:30 to 3 p.m. Still waiting. But that's how it works. So after the candidate accepts, the attendee should get an email notification along with a time that is blocked in their calendar. And actually, that is it. Any questions? It's pretty straightforward.
Okay, I would say with that, if you guys want, feel free to come off mute and ask a question or type it in the chat, and we'd be happy to answer.
I can't see the chat.
No,
Let me tap on it.
no
There's no-
questions. I'll watch for you, I promise. Looks like no questions. So Sharice and Mark, will let you close it up, or Laura?
Okay, I'll take it from there. Thank you, guys. If you do find that you have further questions on the topic or any other info-related topics, please keep our Coffee with Consultants offering in mind. It will allow you 30 minutes of complimentary time with one of our consultants to get questions answered or solve a pain point. You can go to our website and sign up, or simply send me an email and I'd be happy to set that up for you. And that concludes our February series of Informative Friday. Thank you for being with us. We do have our next series coming up in May, so please look for more information toward the end of April.
Thanks, everybody. It's been a pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you. Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.
Thank you.